So hello everyone, my name is Keanna, and today I will be refuting Josiah Whittaker's major claim that the Disney purchase of 21st Century Fox assets is a dangerous monopoly. His first claim was the purchase of 21st Century Fox makes the threat of media consolidations even worse. And his second claim is that previously Fox-owned films and TV assets will be Disney-fied. Firstly, I will be addressing his first claim about the threat of media consolidations and how they will become even worse. Josiah mentions in his speech that having everything owned by a few companies is bad for consumers because it allows for those companies to charge more for that product and just charging more in general because they're the so-called big dogs in the room. He used the example of the movie Star Wars: The Last Jedi and how Disney required 65% of the ticket revenue and 4 weeks of the movie being played in theaters. And if they broke that contract, an extra 5% would be added to that. This example wasn't the best to use because of course Disney will be asking for a large amount of money and time in theaters. This is Star Wars: The Last Jedi, people. People have been waiting years for this movie. So because it's so high in demand, for them to ask for more money is not shocking. I'm sure any production company would ask for more money for a high demand movie. Not only that, but Star Wars: The Last Jedi, according to Dave McNary from Variety.com, crossed $800 million in box office only after 2 weeks of being released. So that just further supports my point that Star Wars: The Last Jedi is a high demand movie. And if they're bringing in $800 million and Disney's producing that and putting in the time, effort, the props, hiring people, you're going to want a large chunk of that money. Not only that, but Disney has the products that the theaters want to show to their consumers. And if it wasn't for this popular product, theaters wouldn't be making as much money. So they need to continue to compromise with the production company and the theaters together in order to make a profit. So going back to the example of the movie Star Wars: The Last Jedi, Disney walked away with 65% of that. That's $520 million. And the theaters, if they followed the contract, would keep the 35%, which is still $280 million. That is a substantial amount of money that the theaters are still receiving. So I don't get how this would be a huge issue if everybody's still making a ton of money, and if it wasn't for this movie that Disney created, the theaters wouldn't be making that much money. And to me, also calling this a dangerous monopoly would be an opinion in this case, because I didn't hear any quotes about coming from the government or something controlling these monopolies. And if this purchase was causing such a harm, or it really was a dangerous monopoly, the government would have stepped in. Our government actually has monopoly regulations already in place to help protect the consumers. According to the article Government Regulations of Monopolies by Stanford University, to combat the effects of these large corporations, the government has tried through both legislation and court cases to regulate monopolistic businesses. Though the strategies that the U.S. has followed has varied, the aim of curbing market hegemony has been relatively constant. So the government is being consistent in taking the responsibility of preventing the formation of monopolies and curbing unfair practices of large corporations. So if Disney was such a monopoly already, and there was the potential of becoming a large monopoly, the government would have already put forth regulations to help protect the consumers of society. And now secondly, I will address Josiah's second and last claim about previously Fox-owned films and TV assets will be Disney-fied. So Josiah in this claim made a point that Disney never made an R-rated film, so how would adults be able to watch these movies if Disney did purchase, if Disney purchased 21st Century Fox. And that's true, they may have never made an R-rated name with their name on it, Disney, but they also own many other companies and brands that they could release that movie through. According to Madeline Johnson from NASDAQ, Walt Disney Studios is home to 4 major film studios: Walt Disney Animation, Pixar Animation, Marvel Studios, and Lucasfilm. So the animation studio that has produced a ton of films, from Snow White to recent films as Moana. And then Pixar produced movies as well as Finding Dory, Coco, and Cars 3. But then you start getting into Marvel Studios, which does more high action that people wouldn't think are as much for kids, which is the Avengers, X-Men, Spider-Man, and Guardians of the Galaxy. And then Lucasfilm, who produced Star Wars and Indiana Jones franchises. So all these films range from all different ages, from a young age to even like an elder person can go and watch this. If you ever walked into a movie theater, watch X-Men or Avengers, you don't see a bunch of elementary school kids filling up the whole entire theater. You see families, you see grandparents, you see a bunch of people enjoying the movie, and everybody walks out saying, wow, that was a great movie, and that they actually enjoyed it. So also, Disney wouldn't even feel prevented in this case to produce R-rated films because they have other companies that they could release those type of high action and R-rated films through. Just like 21st Century Fox could be one of them, and that they could release it through the 21st Century Fox name. So in conclusion, Josiah's major claim that the Disney purchase of 21st Century Fox assets is a dangerous monopoly is invalid in my opinion, and technically not true because of the government regulations preventing monopolies in the first place. Thank you.
Well, the first point is basically it comes down to whether or not the example that the advocate is using is one that we ought to be reasoning from, and whether or not it actually shows that there is a harm. You suggest that the Last Jedi film is an exceptional circumstance. You give reasons why it's particularly different. You do suggest that as a basis of making an inference, it's a little bit problematic because not all films are going to fall into this particular category. And then you also suggest that there's not anything particularly wrong about this because the exhibitors end up making money as well. And according to the calculation that you're talking about, they end up with $280 million, which they wouldn't have had if they didn't have that particular movie. So I think that is a good piece of information. I think one of the things you might point out also is how many how many exhibitors were willing to sign up for this deal. They didn't think it was a bad deal. They said, well, let's commit to this because they wanted that particular product and they felt, they made an economic decision for this. So, like, that whole first point is dependent on that particular example, and I thought that you did a good job suggesting reasons why that example is a little bit problematic. Then the argument of monopoly comes into play. And I do think that you have a good argument here that suggests that if this was a true monopoly, there would have been some government intervention in this process. I'm not sure that the sale has gone through yet, and there may in fact be some government intervention that's going on here. And I think that there might be a more general statement about what constitutes a monopoly. And although Disney has the most successful films right now, that's likely to be cyclical. There are plenty of times when things change, and there are other studios that are producing films that are successful. And there are plenty of independent films, for instance, that are producing the kinds of films that he's worried that Disney won't produce, that their whole market is based on those sorts of things. Plus, the whole filmmaking business is evolving rapidly and changing the way that films are distributed and exhibited because we have streaming things that are going on, that sort of thing. So I think that there's a part of that argument that you leave on the table. In other words, you don't bother to make that argument, and I think it's a low, as they call it, low-hanging fruit. It's something that's right there that would have been easy to pluck and say, well, and let's not forget this, which would, I think, be a potential good argument there. But what you said, I thought, was pretty reasonable. And then about the Disneyfication sort of argument, you spent a little bit less time on this. You mentioned that Disney owns the 4 studios, and you mentioned what they are now. By the way, I think you could look at past examples of studios that Disney has owned where they were perfectly happy to release risque material. Interestingly enough, for instance, Disney owned Miramax at one point, and Miramax produced Quentin Tarantino films, which I don't think anybody thinks are Disney-fied in any way, shape, or form. So the notion that Disney wouldn't want to have their name on it, that's true. They're not going to put the castle and the rainbow on that sort of thing. We're not going to get the Pixar illuminated lamp bouncing around on the next Quentin Tarantino film, but that doesn't mean that the studio doesn't have places where they distribute films through that they have got a financial stake in. And, I like the position that you're taking here. Look, they produce films in a variety of genres. Audiences like them and are happy with them. Is there any information that suggests that these films wouldn't be produced by other studios? I think that's maybe the argument that is also kind of left on the table. You've got a good response to the example that's being presented there, but I think there are other things to be argued as well on that particular point. I thought that it's delivered very effectively. You're forceful in the way you're speaking. You know what it is you're going to say. There's a little bit of reading, but I thought for the most part you're talking to us most of the time, and you are very certain about the position that you're taking, and that enhances the credibility of your argument as well. All right, thank you. Well, I don't have any evaluation forms or outlines.